Om Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jeevanam Kavibhireeditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadadatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Bhurida Janaha. Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We are discussing that simple statement with profound meaning which Sri Ramakrishna utters in the very first meeting with M, the record of the Gospel, Mahendranath Gupta. What is that statement? Shandha Gayatri te loy hoy, Gayatri abar Omkare loy hoy. Sandhya merges into Gayatri, and Gayatri again merges into Om. Sandhya is the twilight devotion meant for purification, all the various karma. Gayatri is the awakening of the Dhi through the mantra Dhiyo yo na prachodayat. And how this leads to Omkara is to be discussed. From the point of view of the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya paradigm, the 5-layered human personality discussed in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, they may correspond to Sandhya, activity, physical activity, vital activity through the prana, and mental activity through the Manomaya. So the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya correspond to the Sandhya. From there you proceed to the Vijnanamaya, which is the Gayatri. Gayatri is the awakening of the Dhi, Buddhi, the higher intuitive intelligence called Medha or Pragya. So the awakening of this Dhi Gayatri in the individual sadhaka or sadhika, individual spiritual aspirant, will thereafter lead him or her to a higher state of consciousness. This higher state of spiritual consciousness from the Vijnanamaya Atma is the cosmic Vijnanamaya. You carefully have to follow this. It's based in the profound experience of our rishis, yogis and Vedantins. And if you go from the point of the Tantric Shat Chakra, Mooladhara Swadhisthana Manipura, corresponding to Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, the Vedanta, this is the Sandhya, the gross and subtle work. The karma, the work based on the body, the work which the prana or the vital energy does, and the work which is related to the mind, mental work. Physical, vital and mental work. Mooladhara, Swadhisthana and Manipura. From there on, you pass on to the Anahata. Anahata chakra corresponds to the heart, which is the Vijnanamaya in Vedanta. The Anahata chakra, when it awakens, that is called the awakening of Dhi in Vedanta according to the Gayatri mantra. When the Dhi awakens, when the Pragya or Medha awakens in one, then you have two definite spiritual experiences as described and recorded by the yogis, the Vedantins in our scriptures. One is the experience of a bright flash of light. This light is the light of consciousness. Chaitanya Jyoti, which is experienced in the heart. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, Yoyam Vijnanamayah Praneshu Hridyantarjyotihi. Hridi Antarjyotihi. Hridi in the Hridaya, in the heart. The Antarjyoti, the inner light of consciousness, is the Vijnanamaya. This is the Anahata. When the Kundalini arises from the Mooladhara, passing through Swadhisthana Manipura, and reaches the Anahata Chakra in the heart, Sri Ramakrishna says in the Gospel of Ramakrishna, Kathamrita, that one experiences mysterious, uncreated light. Then one expounds, exclaims in wonder, what is this? What is this? Eki, Eki. It's a mysterious flash of light, and the characteristic and the beauty of this light is that you realize yourself as that light itself. Just like ordinarily you see the light as apart from yourself, in this light you realize, experience yourself as that light of consciousness itself. This is the Hridi Antarjyoti, and the yogis also say that this is accompanied by an experience of sound. Light and sound of two inexplicably intertwined experiences. Light is seeing, vision, and sound is hearing. We call nowadays audio-visual experience. Audio, hearing, and visual, seeing. The audio-visual, mysterious, spiritual experience is the experience of the Anahata Dhvani and the Chaitanya Jyoti, the inner light of consciousness. It's called Anahata because it is not produced through Ahata. Ahata means striking. You strike one hand against the other, and the striking produces sound. Without striking, you can't produce a sound at all. Now this sound Anahata Dhvani, produced without any striking, is called Anahata, not Ahata, unstruck sound. Because it is Anahata Dhvani, it has no beginning and therefore no end. It is beginningless and endless Dhvani. If it has no beginning and no end, beginningless and endless, this Dhvani, this sound, is therefore eternal, Shashvata. It is always existing in the universe, everywhere, all pervading, and it is called the music of the spheres in the Greek philosophy. In the infinite Chidakasha, this Dhvani is constantly heard by the yogis. Bhaje Asimanabha Majhe Anadirava Jage Agannaravi Chandratara. Rabindranath's song So expressively, pithily he puts the experience. Baje ashima nabha majhe. Ashima nabha means the Chidakasha, infinite Akasha. Anadi Rava, the beginningless and therefore endless, eternally existing sound, Anahata Dhvani. Then the experience of light, Jage Aganna Ravi Chandra Tara. Infinite number, a large number of uncountable, innumerable number of suns and moons and stars arise in your consciousness. So you have tremendous uncreated light and unstruck sound. That is the individual Vijnanamaya. That is called the Anahata Chakra in Tantra. Now, the further experience from there takes a very interesting route. So we are now walking in the spiritual path from experience to experience. It may be theoretical now. None of us has really experienced this. But even then, knowing the theory and imagining this itself gives you tremendous elevation and gives you the hope that I can do this, I can realize this. Because it is based on scriptures and based on the experience of innumerable sages and saints, yogis and Vedantins. Using an elevator as it were, a lift, 1, 2, 3, 4. Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya. We have reached the 4th floor, which according to the American and custom, 1, 2, 3, 4. In the British, which we follow, 0, 1, 2, 3, whatever. Having reached that floor, you exit. Further experience is possible when you exit the individuality which is experienced in the Anahata, in the Vijnanamaya, which is called the Jivatman or the Pratyagatman. Now the Pratyagatman is an individual Atman, individualized consciousness, which feels I am a Jiva, and later on the Jiva identifies with so many different kinds of upadhis, as they are called, limiting adjuncts. I am a male, I am a female, I am a scholar, I am an ignorant person, I am fat, I am lean, I am rich, I am poor. So many different kinds of imaginary limiting adjuncts, upadhi, by which the jiva is bound. However, the jivatva, the selfhood, is realized as a light of consciousness in the Vijnanamaya. Now, having realized the individualized consciousness, the Pratyagatman, the Jivatman, a tremendous longing comes to the sadhaka, the spiritual aspirant or a sadhika, to explore the relationship between the individual Jivatman and the infinite Paramatman. Jiva Brahma Samparka. Aikya is the word used in Advaita Vedanta. Seshitva and Seshatva in the Visishta Advaita, and Pruthaktva in the Dvaita Vedanta. The individualized Jiva is identical with the Supreme Brahman according to Advaita Vedanta, of Shankaracharya. It is a part, a sesha of that Supreme Brahman which is the Seshi, which has parts. This is the Anga, the limb, just like I have a hand and a feet. And the Angi is the Paramatman. Sesha, Seshitva Bhava, Anga, Angitva Bhava, Vishishtadvaita. In the Dvaita Vedanta, we say it is completely separate, but eternally dependent. It can't operate independently of the Paramatman. Whatever be the paradigm that you take, point of view that you take, the individual self, which is the Jivatma, craves, longs, yearns for exploring the relationship with the vast infinite consciousness, which means that the individual self as a jiva, after having realized his nature as consciousness, Chaitanya, Swarupa, is desperate to find out how he can come out of the little individuality and realize the supreme consciousness. This Vyakulata, as Sri Ramakrishna calls it, longing, is called bhakti, according to Shankara. Swaswarupa anusandhanam bhaktiritya bhidiyate Viveka Chudamani. The anusandhana, investigation, research into one's own Swarupa as the infinite Paramatman, which is experienced in the Vijnanamaya as the individualized consciousness. This is called bhakti. For the first time, the longing comes to you. Sri Ramakrishna paid so much emphasis on longing, yearning, vyakulata. Why is it that we do not feel vyakulata? Only when you realize yourself as consciousness, a conscious principle, can you have longing for the infinite consciousness which is God or Paramatman. A Jada Padartha cannot be attracted to Chaitanya. Only Chaitanya can be attracted to Chaitanya. So Jiva Chaitanya is attracted through longing, through tremendous Vyakulata towards the Paramatman. Sri Ramakrishna calls it the small magnet and the big magnet. Jivatman realizes itself of the same nature of consciousness as the Paramatman, only it is not satisfied anymore with the Jivahood, which is individuation. Small little entity called the body and the mind and the senses and the upadhis. It wants to come out of this cage of individuality, just like a lion roars inside a cage, wants to break away from the cage and roam about freely in the infinite consciousness. Or like a bird which wants to come out to the cage and then fly freely in the infinite akasha of divine consciousness. Or like a fish which wants to enter into a vast water body, huge river or even ocean, and swim happily in that infinite sheet of water. These are the kinds of meditation which the Nirakaravadins perform. This was taught to Sri Ramakrishna by his Advaita Guru, Totapuri. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Nangta bolto. Nangta means he was unclad, like Digambara. Sri Ramakrishna will not use Guru's name, so he used to call him Nangta. নিরাকারবাদীরা কিভাবে ধ্যান করে আমাকে শেখাতো। মাছ যেমন মহানন্দে বিশাল জলরাশিতে সাঁতার কেটে চলে যায়, বিচরণ করে, পাখি যেমন অনন্ত আকাশে উড়ে যায়, সেরকম আমাদের জীবাত্মা ক্ষুদ্র চৈতন্য স্বরূপ, সেটা পরমাত্মাতে আনন্দে বিচরণ করে। Just like a fish is swimming happily in a huge sheet of water, just like a bird flies freely and joyfully in the infinite sky, so is the individual self or the Jivatma roaming around, moving around happily in the infinite consciousness which is the Paramatma. Even if you imagine this, there's so much of joy. To come out of the little individuality, I feel yourself small, circumscribed, a prisoner in my body. I want to come out like a lion roaring and breaking the cage and walking out, roaming in the forest happily. Swamiji used to give this example. Nirgacchati jagat jalat pinjaradiva keshari. Pinjaradiva keshari. It's like a keshari, just like a lion, pinjarat, from the small cage, nirgacchati, breaks away, comes out, roam around freely, happily, strongly. A rhinoceros is also the Buddhistic text he used to quote. Swamiji was very fond of this. Roam around happily, strongly, powerfully like the rhinoceros. These are some of the examples and similes given to you for meditation, for dhyana. Roam around happily. You are that infinite self. Do not think you are a small, limited entity. I am a man, I am a woman, I am a sannyasin, I am a householder, I am learned, I am not learned, I am little, I am small, I am alpagya, I know very little, I am powerless. Throw away all the superstitions. Swamiji used to thunder. The famous spiritual psychotherapy, Vedantic psychotherapy which Swamiji performed on Emma Khalve. Emma Khalve was a French opera singer and actress, a great celebrity in those days, as most celebrities are. She was extremely depressed, unhappy, frustrated, lonely. She in fact wanted to kill herself. She was tired of life. You can see how celebrities become frustrated and unhappy. The more khyati, fame you get, the more lonely you feel and the more depressed you become. Unless there is a deep spiritual mooring, you are rooted in your own inner consciousness, the self, the Atman, or God, you can never have peace. She was so upset. One of her friends told her, the great Indian yogi by name Swami Vivekananda, who is living in Paris at that time, you may meet him, he will be able to help you. She made an appointment and went to him. Swamiji was sitting in his study writing something or reading something. When she entered the room, Swamiji did not even look up. He said with deep compassion, with a tone of tremendous love and pity, "My child, what a tremendous atmosphere you have brought with you. As if a storm is raging, যেন একটা ঝড় বয়ে যাচ্ছে তোমার মনের মধ্যে, কি তুমি এটা করেছো? তোমার মনটা যেন একটা বিশাল একটা রণক্ষেত্র হয়ে আছে। Your mind is like a battlefield. A storm is raging within you. Calm down, calm down. Sit down, একটু বসো বসো, শান্ত হও, শান্ত হও." When she sat down, Swami just straight looked into her eyes and started speaking about some of the innermost secrets of Emma Khalve's life, which she had not shared with anybody. She was scared, flabbergasted, frightened, threatened. She shouted, "Oh, how did you know, Swami, all this? Did anybody speak to you about me?" Swami just smiled and said, "Is it necessary? I can read you like an open book." Then he said, "Don't brood over your secret sorrow. Throw all the things which have happened in the past. Clean up, cleanse yourself totally of the past. Begin now. You are not a small little entity encased in a body and mind. You think I'm a woman, I'm a celebrity, I'm a small limited being, I'm depressed, I'm unhappy, I'm frustrated." Throw away all these notions of yourself. You are that infinite self. The spiritual impulse, it was not mere talk. He poured some power into that lady, and her Kundalini started awakening, and she was almost losing her consciousness in samadhi. That is the power of the man. And she started crying, "Oh, Swami, what are you doing to me? I am losing my consciousness, I will die." When you lose your eye, you think you will die. Because the obliteration of the eye is what you call death. Then Swamiji told her a story, very interesting story. You see, there is a water drop, a small jalabindu, which was falling into the ocean. And the small water drop was crying profusely. The ocean asked the drop, "Why are you crying, my child? What has happened to you?" "Oh, I am going to lose my individuality as a small drop." I am a small water drop. If I fall into the ocean, I'll be completely lost. Such a huge ocean, my individuality is completely gone. Then the ocean smiled and said, "My child, you are not going to lose your individuality as the drop. You are going to regain your individuality as the ocean." Think of this. You were the ocean, you were me, one with me. The rays of the sun, the heat of the sun, took you away from me. You became part of the cloud and then coming to me back as rain, to join your billions and trillions of water drops, your brothers and sisters, which are you. All of you form the ocean. You are one with me. Come to my bosom. This is the great lesson which Advaita Vedanta gives you. We are not the little individualities which we think we are. We are the infinite. See, Ramakrishna's gospel, the Kathamrita, repeatedly gives you this lesson in the bhakti language sometimes, and jnana language sometimes. Tumi jano ki na jano, tumi shei Ram, tumi shei Satchidananda Swarup. Whether you know or not, whether you are aware or not aware, you are that infinite self. You are the Satchidananda. You are God. Only you are imagining yourself in the various limiting adjuncts called upadhis. How many times Sri Ramakrishna has said this? In your heart shines that infinite self. Awaken, awaken. To the Chaitanya Hok, 1st of January, which is coming now, Kalpataru Day we call it, Sri Ramakrishna addressed his devotees and disciples and said, awaken, awaken to the Chaitanya Hok. May you all be awakened. This is one thing which all the spiritual teachers, the avatars, the prophets, saints and sages and the rishis, the yogis, all of them speak only one language, only one instruction to all of us, the struggling spiritual aspirants, sadhakas, sadhikas. Awake, awake. Uttishtata jagrata prapyavaran nibodhata. Arise and awake. And approaching the illumined, enlightened people, realize this truth. Swami Vivekananda writes in a letter, there is nothing else I preach except awake, 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 awake. Jagrata, Jagrata, come on. Don't sleep anymore in this huge sleep of avidya. Anadi avidya nidra. This nidra, the sleep, is the anadi avidya. When we went into sleep, we do not know the Rip Van Winkle. We have been sleeping for millions of janmas, millions of lives. Now is the time for it to awaken, awaken, awaken. So when you reach the Vijnanamaya, which is equivalent to the Anahata, you walk horizontally, as it were, take an escalator rather than an elevator. From the individual Vijnanamaya, which is called the Jivatma, you walk towards the cosmic Vijnanamaya, the macrocosmic Vijnanamaya, which is called the Hiranyagarbha. It is called the Hiranyagarbha, which is the cosmic mind, as they call it, the Virat Man, as Swami Sharadananda puts it in the Leela Prasanga, Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga, Ramakrishna the My Master, divine play, so many translations are available. What is that? That is the cosmic consciousness. Vedanta technically calls it Samashti Buddhyupahita Chaitanya. Chaitanya which is encased, which is covered by the upadhi of the collective consciousness. Samashti Buddhi Upahita. What is the upadhi of this Chaitanya, which is the Hiranyagarbha? Samashti Buddhi. The aggregate of the buddhi intelligences of all the beings. This buddhi is not the ordinary buddhi, the intellect that we talk about. That is manomaya. I repeat this so many times to remind ourselves that the buddhi which is being spoken of here, which is the dhi, is not the ordinary intellect, which is the manomaya. Once again in the Gospel of Ramakrishna, Kathamrita, very first page, Sri Ramakrishna makes M understand through some snubbing of his intellect that it is not by reading and studying so many books you acquire knowledge. The spiritual knowledge is acquired not through study of books, but by the awakening of the higher intelligence called the Medha, Dithi, the Pragya. Nayamatma pravachanena labhyo na medhaya na bahuna shrudena. Kathopanishad. Ayamatma pravachanena labhyaha. Pravachana, talking, discoursing, discussing Brahman as we are now doing. Na medhaya, not by the intellect of the manomaya, studying books, memorizing shlokas, and so on, chanting stotras. Nabuhuna shrutena, as all of you are now doing. How many classes all of you are doing in a week? Some of you perhaps are doing 25, 30 classes in a week. Every day you are listening to spiritual discourse. Bahuna shrutena. Through all this you will not be able to reach the Supreme unless there is awakening of the higher intelligence called Dhi or Pragya. Master Maharshi thought, M. Mahendranath Gupta, the record of the Gospel, thought that by studying so many subjects and books he will acquire knowledge. Sri Ramakrishna taught him, made him understand, just by study of books you will not be able to understand the spiritual truths. মাস্টার ভাবিলেন অনেক বই পড়িলেই জ্ঞান হয়, পরবর্তীকালে জানিতে পারিলেন ঈশ্বরকে জানাই জ্ঞান, অন্য সব হচ্ছে অজ্ঞান. He writes in the very first page of the Gospel, the first meeting. M thought, he says himself, that study of lot of books will give you knowledge. Later on he came to understand that study of books alone will not give you knowledge. Knowing Ishvara, realizing your infinite consciousness, yourself, the Atman or Ishvara or God, alone will give you knowledge. This is called the Paravidya in the Mundaka Upanishad. All that you read, including the Vedas and the Upanishads and the Gita and the Bhagavatam and all the scriptures of all the religions, the Quran, the Bible, Zindavast, whatever it be the religions, simply by studying them, understanding them and expounding them will not lead you to emancipation, knowledge and liberation. You have to deeply be connected to God, your higher self, through undying, unbroken, unwavering love or pull. Thakur vyavahar kochan tan. Tan means pull. You feel a pull for God. God is pulling you as it were. As a magnet pulls the iron, God is pulling you, tan. If you feel that kind of pull, then God reveals yourself to you. Tremendous vyakulata, longing, yearning. That comes by tremendous love of God, bhakti, in the language of bhakti, or the intense longing to realize your real nature as Atman in the language of Jnana. Both are same. It's called love, prema, prema bhakti, ananya bhakti, avyabhicharini bhakti. Bhakti which is unwavering, bhakti is focused. which is supreme bhakti, para-bhakti. Para-bhakti and para-jnana are identical. So many places the scriptures say, the Gita, the Upanishad, all of them say para-bhakti and para-jnana are the same. If your bhakti towards Saguna Brahman is called para-bhakti, if your nishtha towards the Nirguna Nirakara, your own self, it is called para-jnana. And yourself and Ishvara are identical. Ishvaro gururatmeti murti bheda vibhagine. Ishvara, Guru and the Atma are only the names of the same entity expressed in three ways. They are identical. So it is called prema, Nishvartha prem. Shartahin prem je shambal. Swamiji says in the famous poem Shakhara Prati to your friend, it is possible only through Shartahin prem, that intense love for God without expecting anything from Him. I don't want anything from God. I pour my heart into God because He is most beloved, because He is the only thing which is worthy of being aspired for. Nothing else is worth pursuing or seeking. So I want God and God alone. Jaya che amar loho pohar shopinu jivan tava shevai. Premeshanji's famous song, Arupa Shayare Leela Lohari Uchila Mrudula Karunavai. Ja che amar loho upahar. Whatever I have, my Lord, my Prabhu, my body, my mind, my intellect, my possessions, my intelligence, my talents, all of them I offer unto you as upahara, as my offerings. And my whole life I dedicate at your feet. Dedication of life. Rabindranath's Gitanjali is a beautiful poem. I want to sing dedication of life in this silent and overflowing leisure, in this great leisure, calmness, tranquility. I want to sing dedication of life. I want to offer my everything at your feet. Ja ache ama loho upahar. Shampinu jivan tava sevai. So when there is a longing for the infinite self, the Paramatman, which is called the Hiranyagarbha, the macrocosmic counterpart of the individual Vijnanamaya, then the sadhaka walks towards horizontally, taking an escalator as it were, into the Hiranyagarbha loka. It's called Satya loka. The last among the manifested prapanchas. Bhur bhuva swaha maha janaha tapaha satyam bhurloka, bhuvarloka, suvarloka, mahalloka, tapoloka, and Satyaloka, the last among the 7 lokas above. The Bhur Loka, including there are 7 above, 7 below, the 14 worlds. The last among the manifested worlds, Prapancha, Loka, is the Satyaloka. Satyaloka is the Hiranyagarbha Loka, and that is the Loka in which Saguna Brahman lives. It is called Kailasha by the devotees of Shiva who will go to Kailasha after death. It is called Vaikuntha by the followers of Vishnu. It's called the Ramakrishna Loka, has been created after the advent of Ramakrishna, where the devotees of Ramakrishna will go. This is the state of pure sattva, Shuddha sattva. Vishuddha sattva, the purest sattvic loka is the Hiranyagarbha loka. And this Hiranyagarbha loka is called Mahat Tattva in Sankhya. It is the same. In the Kathopanishad there is a verse, Indriyebhya parahyartha arthebhyascha param manah manasastu para buddhir buddhir atma mahan paraha mahatav param avyaktam avyaktat purushap paraha purushanna param kinchit sa kashtha sa paragatihi. So Indriyas, then the mind to the Vijnanamaya, from the Manomaya to the Vijnanamaya, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, then to Vijnanamaya. And the Vijnanamaya, from there you go to Mahan Para, Mahanatma. Mahanatma is the infinite Atman, the huge Atman, which is called the Hiranyagarbha. It's called Mahat Tattva. Bhagavan Bhashyakara Shankaracharya says, in commenting on this verse, Mahanatma Avyaktat Prathamam Jatam Hiranyagarbham Tattvam. The Mahanatma, the Mahat Tattva, is the same as Hiranyagarbha, which is the first offshoot of Avyakta. Avyakta is Prakriti, the unmanifested. The first manifested world coming from Avyakta Prakriti, Brahma Shakti, is the Hiranyagarbha, the Mahat Tattva. Buddhir Atma Mahan Para, Mahatav Param Avyaktam, Avyaktat Purushaparaha. Beyond Avyakta is the Purusha. Starting from Avyakta up to Pancha Mahabhuta are the 24 Chaturvimshati Tattva principles, cosmic principles of Sankhya, which Vedanta has completely and fully adopted. So Chaturvimshati Tattva beginning from Pancha Mahabhuta and ending with Avyakta or Prakriti. Beyond the Prakriti is Purusha. That the 25th principle, which is completely detached from Prakriti. For some reason we do not know how and when and why, the Purusha has got entangled with Prakriti. The Chit or Chaitanya has got entangled with Jada. This entanglement is called Chit Jada Granthi. Even in ordinary life, husband and wife, man and wife, when they come together through marriage, we call it tying the knot. Tying the knot is a philosophical term, the Granthi. Chit, which is Purusha, Jada, which is Prakriti, man and woman, symbolizing respectively the Purusha and Prakriti, come together and tie a knot. They are bound to each other. So Purusha and Prakriti coming together results in the creation of this entire world. Just like an ordinary world which you see. And there is nobody beyond the Purusha. Purushanna param kinchit sa kashtha sa paragatihi. That is the supreme state. That is the highest. The whole purpose of yoga is Purusha Prakriti Viveka. How you can separate out the Purusha and Prakriti and disentangle the Purusha from the Prakriti. In a sense, this yoga is called Viyoga. Tatra tam buddhi sanyogam viyogam yoga samgyatam. Yoga is actually the Viyoga, separation of the Purusha and the Prakriti. This is the yogic paradigm. In Yoga Shastra, you talk about separating Purusha Prakriti Viveka. In Vedanta, it is more positive. You realize yourself with the individual self, the Jivatma, the Pratyagatman. Then you merge that Pratyagatman into the Paramatman, realizing that the identity of the Pratyagatman, the Paramatman, is the highest truth. Advaita Vedanta talks about it. This is uniting the Jivatman with the Paramatma, the Yuju Dhatu, meaning union, uniting, yoking. Whereas in yoga, it is not the uniting of the individual with the Supreme Self. It is separating Purusha from Prakriti, which is Viyoga. Two paradigms. The idea is the same. You cannot unite with the Paramatman as an individual unless you give up your individuality. Your individuality is the Prakriti. You are trapped in Prakriti. You are trapped in the Indriyas, you are trapped in the mind, you are trapped in the Buddhi, and you are trapped in your Ahankara. Mano buddhya ahankara chittani naham. Shankaracharya Stotra. So deny all this. I am not all this. Neti neti. I am not this. I am not this. I am not the Indriyas. I am not the Buddhi. I am not the Manas. So who am I? Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. I am Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. This is Vedantic position. So the individual Pratyagatman is realized in the Anahata, Vijnanamaya, whether you take the Tantric paradigm or the Vedantic paradigm. And then the individual is moving towards the Mahat Tattva. The Kathopanishad, just now what I chanted, Indriyani paranyahoho indriyebhya param manaha manasastu para buddhir buddhir atma mahan para mahata param avyaktam avyaktat purusha para purushanna param kinchit sakashtha sa paragatihi. That is the supreme state. That is the Purusha. These are very, very subtle ideas. Again and again you should listen. So we'll have a repeat of this on Wednesday again. This is a great mantra in the Kathopanishad. It occurs in the Kathopanishad in the first Adhyaya, third Valli, 10 and 11. 1.3.10.11. You can have a look at that in the Kathopanishad and see how this describes the process of realization of a sadhaka in the Vedantic method. So you reach the Hiranyagarbha, which is the Mahat Tattva, and from there you move on to the Supreme Purusha, which is called the Jnana Atman. Hiranyagarbha, from there to Shanta Atma, the supreme, calm, tranquil self. Prashantoyam Atma. This Atma is called Shanta, Shantam, Shivam, Advaitam, Chaturtham Manyante Sa Atma. Mandukya Upanishad. Shantam, Shivam, Advaitam. This is Shanta, tranquil, calm, peaceful. Shivam, auspicious, Kalyanamaya. Advaitam, non-dual, one without a second. Chaturtham, it is called the fourth. Fourth because of Turiya, it is the Turiya. So these can be realized. So Sri Ramakrishna's idea, Gayatri merges into Om. The Gayatri is the individual Vijnanamaya which you see in the Dhi. And from there you move on to the Hiranyagarbha. From there on to Om. Om has two aspects. One is the aspect of Saguna Brahman, the other aspect is Nirguna Brahman. Parabrahman and Aparabrahman. Kathopanishad has beautiful verses on this. Etadhyevaksharam Brahma, etadhyevaksharam param, etadhyevaksharam gyatva, yo yadichhati tasya tat. This Akshara Brahman is Parabrahman as well as Aparabrahman. The Om is Ishvara, God, Aparabrahman as Hiranyagarbha, Saguna Brahman, or it could be the Nirguna aspect, Parabrahman, Etadhyevaksharam Brahma, Etadhyevaksharam Param. This Akshara means the Omkara. So Sandhya merges into Gayatri, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya merge into the Vijnanamaya in the Vedantic paradigm, and the Kundalini awakens from the Mooladhara, passing through Swadhisthana, Manipura, and reaches the Anahata. You realize yourself, the individual self, the Pratyagatman, the Jivatman, Tantric paradigm. From the Jivatman then feels tremendous Vyakulata, yearning and longing to merge with the Paramatman, and moves on to the Hiranyagarbha, which is called the Mahattattva. And the Hiranyagarbha being the Aparabrahman, after reaching the Aparabrahman, which can be reached, then it realizes the Supreme Parabrahman, which cannot be reached but which can be known and realized. Once again, Bhagavan Shankara Bhashyakara's beautiful commentary. Aparam chet praptavyam, param chet gyatavyam. Aparam chet, if it is lower, which is Hiranyagarbha, then it can be reached. It is Saguna. Param chet, it is supreme. Nirguna, it cannot be reached. There is nothing to reach there. Gyatavyam, you know it, you realize it as your own very self. That the culmination of the Advaita Vedanta, which is the meaning of the simple statement, Sandha Gayatri te loy hoy, Gayatri abar Omkare loy hoy. Now, the merging of the individual self in the cosmic self, the Jivatman into the Paramatman, through Hiranyagarbha, that route we should discuss in greater detail and discuss Omkara as Para and Apara, taking the record of the realizations of the Rishis in the various Upanishads as well as the Bhagavad Gita. So we'll have a repeat of this talk once again on Wednesday so that these ideas sink into you. We'll take it up next Sunday. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukampathrita Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.